So I'm back in our demo application, and thus far we manage all of our application state in the app.js file in our app container. Here we have the state with the places and the selected place. We also manage some state in place input here where we manage whatever the user entered, but I will leave that here because that's really just some local UI state relevant for this input. We could also manage that through Redux, but you can always make an argument for either direction. I'll leave it in this component because it's not a state that is important application-wide. The one in app.js is though. So let's add Redux. And adding Redux first of all means that we need to install some third-party libraries, some normal JavaScript libraries I should say. And that's important. We install libraries that we could add to any JavaScript project because our JavaScript code is going to run on the native device in this extra thread. So I can use npm, which we also used to install create React Native app. And in this project, I now run npm install --save to add a new dependency to the project, and the save flag ensures that it gets stored in the package.json file so that the reference to it gets stored there. And now the package name I want to install is Redux. That's all, that's the name. I also will install a second package because Redux standalone doesn't know about React or React Native. In order to connect it to React apps, and it doesn't matter if that's a web app or a native app, I will also install React-Redux. That's a second package. So these two libraries get installed, just hit enter, and they will allow us to add Redux to this app. Now, if you have worked with React for web apps, you might see that these are the exact same packages you use there. And there really is no difference. You use Redux and React Redux in exactly the same way. Now, to add Redux, I'll first of all create a new folder in my subfolder, in my source folder, and I'll name it store. There I want to add my Redux related files and so on. In that new store folder, I'll add a reducers folder, even though for now we'll only add one, but this will grow over the course of this course. The second folder I add is the actions folder. Now, I mentioned that actions and reducers are important. Actions are these messages we dispatch. Reducers are the places where we accept these messages and change our state. Now, in our case, we will only have one reducer. I'll name it root.js because it's our root reducer handling our main, application logic we have, which is just managing our places right now. Well, therefore, why don't we name it places.js? I think that also makes sense. So we have the places.js file. Now in there, I simply will set it up as we set up a reducer in a normal React app, so in a web React app. The reducer is just a function, and I'll use an ES6 arrow function here. I'll name the function reducer, and it will accept two arguments. The first one is the old state, so that we can update it. The second one is the action we got, because the reducer function here will be executed whenever we receive an action. Now, inside the reducer, we then can find out which action occurred and manipulate the state accordingly. I will export this reducer function as the default of this file, like this. I will also add some other constant, which I'll name initial state. That's just a JavaScript object, and here I want to set up the state with which we start in this application before any action has occurred. We also have an initial state right now in the app.js file. There we have our state object where we have the places array and the selected place, which is null. I'm just going to copy these two properties and put them into my initial state here in the reducer file, in the places.js file. And then I'm going to take advantage of a next generation JavaScript feature. I can set this state argument in my reducer function to a default value, which is initial state, so that if we don't have an existing state, we start with this one. Now inside the reducer, we create a typical switch case statement as you probably know it from other React apps. We switch the action type Each action does have to have at least the type property. And then we can find out which action occurred and react accordingly. First of all, I'm going to set up a default case in which I just want to return the existing state unchanged. But then we can react to different other action types. We have no action types yet though. So let's make sure that we do have some by adding actions. Let's do that in the next lecture.